Hey, I'm Sam. Welcome to Brickwall Pictures. Today I'm excited to finally talk about a project that I've been looking forward to announcing for a long time now. And that project is a feature film called Our Goddamn Wedding. This is a feature-length comedy that I co-wrote with Jeff Jackson, who is directing the project. I would describe what it's about, but you'll actually be able to see it for yourself if you just visit that top link that's in the description. We shot a proof of concept for this movie that you can watch right now. It's about 13 minutes long, and it functions both as a contained short, and it's also meant to whet your appetite for the feature film that will follow. Check out that proof of concept, and if you like it, you can help us get the feature made. That's right, we're taking the crowdfunding approach. But we've actually got a huge chunk of our budget in place already, so we just need your help to get us across the finish line. We've already got a great crew put together who you can see hard at work on the proof of concept and in these behind-the-scenes shots, and we've got a badass cast assembled to bring this thing to life. You might already be familiar with Sabrina from right here on YouTube or from over on Twitch. You might recognize Trent from any of the music videos, commercials, or cool film projects he's been in. Or you might know Marissa from any of these movies. You probably won't recognize Gil unless you're from New York because he's a theater actor that we flew out just for the shoot. And if you recognize Annette, it's probably because she was one of the freaking Bill and Ted princesses. How cool is that? But most importantly, they are all hilarious, talented people. There's such a good team on this project behind the scenes, and I'm asking you to help fund Our Goddamn Wedding if you're able to, so that we can make a great movie. If you like the sound of this project, go check out the short, that proof of concept, and donate if you're able to. If you want to learn a little more about the background of the film, stick around in this video for a discussion with the director right now.
I come from the world of advertising originally. I had my own advertising agency where I got to write and direct everything from TV spots to corporate video. It was a great proving ground, but my first love was always film and the arts, and I've worked in various aspects of that. I had a feature-length screenplay optioned and won some awards. I also had a foot in the theater world because I lived in the New York area. And I had 2 plays produced in New York and published. What else have I done?
The video game project?
Yeah, I tried to invent something new, which was kind of a hybrid movie video game. It was in the horror genre. It's called ddamn 9. It's still out there on Steam. You can download it and play it.
It was kind of like Bandersnatch almost, the Black Mirror.
It was.
It
was in a category that I didn't know quite existed when I started, called FMV, full motion video. It has a very cinematic structure to it. It's just cinematic base. It's all, there's actors and a story and characters, and they're all shot cinematically. If you were to edit it all together, it's about the length of a feature film, maybe a shortish feature film. Is about like 90 minutes of content.
The story starts with you. You had a full draft of this script in a much different form before we started working on it together.
Right.
It was originally written to be set in New Jersey, right, or New York.
New Jersey.
Yeah, that area. And it had like way more characters and way more locations.
Yeah,
much more expensive movie. My
first vision of it was just as a convention. I wasn't trying to limit it or make it a contained screenplay at all. So I let my imagination run wild, and there were a lot of set pieces. We had 2 wedding receptions and the whole ceremony in a church, and lots of characters, and a skywriter, and all this fun stuff. But when I decided then that, I want to take this beyond the page and I actually want to make this, that's when we had met and we were in a writer's group together, and I loved your stuff, and I felt like I could use a fresh take on it as well. So I invited you to reimagine it with me. We did put our heads together, and we did, and created what people might call today a contained screenplay, which is something that takes place largely in one location with a more finite set of characters, a compressed time frame, and there's still elements of it that are going to be pricey to do. It's not like like the original Saw, where there's 2 guys in a room, or My Dinner with Andre, but it's definitely much more achievable than the initial.
Yeah, that's why we can pull it off with the right amount of crowdfunding.
It's kind of based loosely on a real life experience of mine. I'm married, happily married to the most wonderful woman in the world right now, but I was married once before, and that didn't work out. She was Catholic, and she came from a very Catholic family. And I, pretty much since my late 20s, have been an atheist. I don't get all militant about it. You might know me for years and never know it, but that's where I stand. And so when it came time to get married, we had a dilemma how to deal with this, because my fiance wanted to have a traditional Catholic ceremony in their church. She herself was not all that serious about it, but other than it was part of their family culture. So we had to have an interview with a priest for him to okay the whole thing, because technically we were a mixed marriage. But I only had one caveat. I said, look, I'll go along with this, but I won't lie. So as we had the interview with this priest, my fiance is just sweating bullets, wondering what I'm going to say, and the guy just never asked me any pertinent questions. He was wanted to be one of these cool priests that was telling jokes about this and that, but he never asked me by the way, do you believe in God or anything like that? To which I would have answered honestly, and I don't know what would have happened. So while that kind of worked out, although the marriage didn't work out, the wedding did come off. I always wondered what would have happened if that interview had gone sideways. And that's kind of the crux of our goddamn wedding. It's about a couple in the same boat, and they decide pretty much like we did that they're going to try and blow one by the Catholic Church, only it doesn't quite go so well. There's this general conventional wisdom that if you're an atheist, you have no moral compass, because you don't have a book to guide you and tell you what's right and wrong, and nothing could be further from the truth. If anything, I think atheists have the capacity to be even more moral because they aren't just doing it to please a deity.
I think a lot of people use their religion as an excuse to bend.
And there's that, that justifies harm. Yeah. But when all you've got to go on is your own personal ethics, I think it's a much stronger moral compass.
And one of the things we tried to do with this movie was to not stack the deck in the favor of atheism or anything like that.
Yeah, we tried really hard to.
A very fair depiction of this sort of, because religion really is at the heart of this movie. It's a comedy, first and foremost. It never stops being funny, but there is a real religious debate at the core of this movie between its characters. And
it kind of sucks you in. It's a bit of a stealth bomb. It's a rom-com on the surface, and it has a lot of romance and a lot of comedy. But as it digs deeper and peels back the layers, it gets down to this religious debate that I think is going to be very interesting to a lot of people, because there's a lot that's said in here that isn't said elsewhere.
Yeah, and I think whether you're religious or interested in a religious debate, or if you don't give a shit about religion, I think it's a funny movie either way. It's not
absolutely. Yeah, there's we've had a lot of people read the script.
Yeah. Of all different.
I've never had it, and I've had people who are religious, who are devout Christians, read the script, who still think it's great and it's funny and were not offended by it. And we tried. Look, that's my perspective. I'm not gonna shy away from that, but. I was actually a pretty serious Christian well into my 20s, so I was an adult Christian, not just a kid who went to Sunday school. So I know a lot about it. I know what the perspective is. I know what their arguments are. I know why Christians are Christians, or whatever religion. We tend to focus on Christianity as we're here in America, and that's the predominant
and just
religion.
Because we're focusing on a very small set of characters.
Right, who happen to be Catholic based on my experience. But we try very, very hard not to stack the deck, and whenever anyone points out to us some element of it that maybe goes a little bit off balance, we were careful to try and rein it back in.
Oh, just sidebar, we have gone through so many drafts of this script, even just in, we spent like 2 or 3 months just outlining, very meticulously outlining every little thing and all these different character dynamics. And do you know how many drafts we've gone through at this point? Full drafts? I think it's...
I tend to number the drafts the way they do software. Like a major release is version 3, and then the bug fixes are 3.1, 3.2. Right. But if you want to count all the little bug fixes, it's probably well past a dozen drafts. Yeah. But I think that's the mark of a good screenplay. Mm-hmm. I think, there's this, illusion, particularly for novice screenwriters, that somehow some brilliant nugget's going to come out of your brain. It's just going to be perfect as soon as it comes out. And I'm convinced there's absolutely no such thing. I think with every draft, first of all, when we took that leap from that first draft to the Sam and Jeff draft, I thought it it improved dramatically. Just those parameters of containing the time frame and the scope of it seemed to focus the story more. And each time we've never gotten farther away from it. We've always gotten better and better and better. I'm very happy with the way our whole collaboration went. We didn't have any fights or any crap like that about it. We just
arguing about
we might debate points or two, but it never was anything but collaborative.
There's lots of debating, but there's never
lots of debating.
It helps that we have very similar senses of humor, I guess. Like, we definitely disagree on, like, the wording of punchlines from time to time, but, like, the whole reason that you brought me on this was he had brought the older draft of this through the script group, and I really enjoyed it. I brought a different comedy through it, and Jeff liked the humor in it.
Yeah, the first thing I read of Sam's through the group was a horror film that was very good, and then another one that was even better. But then he brought in this something, I think, from your boneyard or something that you put aside,
in, like, high school,
and it was so freaking funny. I was just laughing at everything. So I hadn't seen that side of it, and it was right at that moment when I was thinking, gee, I need to retool this thing. And I wasn't actively looking for a collaborator. That wasn't part of my plan to say, oh, I need to collaborate with someone. But it was just had you done that 2 months later or 2 months earlier, it might not have happened. Yeah. But it just happened to coincide, and so I invited you to do it. And we used Writer Duet, which is a web-based writing tool, which is great because we can both work in it in real time. You can leave comments for each other. It updates us. It's not perfect. It's not perfect.
It's not a sponsor or anything like that.
No. We have nothing to do with it. Other than when we were at that outlining stage, which was pre-COVID, we never sat in a room together. We'd have a Zoom session once in a while to talk about things. Lots of Zoom sessions,
emails back and forth.
But mostly collaborating electronically.
Yeah, and there were times where, like, since it's this web-based thing, we would both be in the script at the same time. Occasionally, not very often, but sometimes we'd be like in the same scene at the same time. But a lot of times we would kind of divide, and it would be like, okay, you take this scene, I'll write this other scene.
It was serendipity that put Sam and us together as collaborators, but I would say to anyone who's thinking about choosing a collaborator, we do have similar sensibilities, but you don't look at you and me and say, oh, these two should be collaborating together. Yeah. There's a lot of years. I'm a little bit older than Sam, and asterisk a lot. And we're different people from very different backgrounds, but I think that's what makes it a good collab. One of the reasons why I knew you would bring a perspective of things that was different from mine. And I think too often when people collaborate, they choose someone who's like a bestie or, a brother or sister or something. So they don't really have that diversity of perspective. And there's an old saying, if two people agree on everything, only one of them is thinking.
All the debates we had over little script moments, I feel like anytime there was a moment that we had any disagreement on, that moment ended up being stronger than what either of us wanted initially.
There's passages in the script I honestly do not remember if they were yours.
Oh, me neither. I have no idea.
There's a few things, particularly when they were yours and they were hysterical, and I still crack up at them because I know they wouldn't have come from my head. But those are the ones I always flag mine. Oh yeah, that's a Sam. But I can't even tell you sometimes. There's sometimes I've said we go back to something, I'm like, I hate that part. And you're like, that was yours. I'm like, yeah, okay, but I hate it now. So as long as you're just always focused on the idea being the main thing, the big idea and all the little ideas that go into it.
Yeah, and it's really they kind of fuse together. There's a lot of jokes in this thing where I did the setup and you did the punchline or vice versa. Yeah. So it works really well in that way. Yeah. If you're watching this and you've not yet seen the proof of concept, please check the link in the description. Go watch proof of concept right now. You can check out the whole crowdfunding page. There's more information on there. And after you've seen that, come back here, or you can, whatever. I'm not your boss. You can watch this part first if you want. We won't spoil that, I guess.
Yeah.
But we're going to talk a little bit about the creation process of this proof of concept. I guess first, why we decided to do a proof of concept in the first place. Because initially we were going to just jump right into the feature. And it ended up being a little bit more expensive than what we were able to pull off.
Raising the funds, even for this new contained version, was going to be tricky. We've got some of the funding in hand, but just not as much as we'd like, because you can cut a budget to the bone, but there's a point where it's dangerous to go beyond. The minute we could see a way to retool a chunk of the script for it, then I was all in. I internally greenlit us and said, we're doing this. And we went really pretty much into full production mode inside of a month.
Fast pre-production, we got in there quick.
We probably had, maybe a month, 6 weeks of pre-production and shot it, and it was edited, a month later. So you can do it quickly if you've got a mind to.
Yeah, and shooting it was a great experience. We got a really nice location that I'll include some BTS photos from right now. We had a great crew who is, I think, going to stick around with us for the feature. That's the idea, at least. Yeah. I mean, we'll need a slightly larger crew for the feature, but,
I personally like to work with smaller crews because I think there's a communication that you gain. We kept it small. I mean, I think there was... 16 of us, including 5 cast members.
And they weren't all there on every day. And it helped with the COVID stuff, obviously, because you want to keep crews small now anyway, even if you did need more people, but we were never short-staffed or anything. So if this project sounds interesting to you, go watch that short if you haven't already, or if you already have watched and you came back to learn a little more about the production of it and whatnot, then please donate, help us make this movie a reality.
Yeah, and tell people about it. It doesn't take a lot of money from any one person. It just takes a lot of people, all willing to give something. So any amount is welcome and useful.
So go donate, help us make this thing, and thanks for watching.
Our goddamn wedding.